Hi, Bev. How are you? Welcome back to the Unstoppable You podcast. I'm your host, Evie, life and confidence coach and business mentor, and so excited to be back here with another beautiful episode. Thanks so much for tuning in wherever you are, walking your dog, in your car trips, wherever you're going, making dinner, doing chores around the house, whatever it is that you're doing. Thanks for popping this in your ears. And if you're watching over on YouTube, a special hello and welcome. And hope you're loving this. We have my fluffy slippers on today. It's my standard work attire, working from home in my coaching office. But it's pouring with rain here and it's a really cozy one. And I feel like the scene is kind of set for the podcast episode today. So yeah, welcome. Hello. It's so good to be here with you all. First things first, I want to remind you, if you're listening to this in real time, at the time of this podcast being released, there is only 4 spots left to work with me one-to-one this year. I can't believe I'm saying that. 4 spots to work with me this year in 2025. Before I go on mat leave, if you didn't listen to the recent podcast episode where I share my journey with pregnancy, announced our little baby number 2, if you missed it on socials, now you know. Now you know we're expecting our second baby towards the end of the year. And, some of that journey has inspired the podcast episode today, which I'm going to dive into in a moment. But first things first, if you want to work with me one-to-one this year, now is your chance. Now is the time. If you've been feeling the call or the nudge and you know that you want to step into more of your authentic magic, more of your soul's gifts, more impact, more abundance, more soul in your life. And that could be in one-to-one life coaching. It could be in one-to-one business coaching, where we blend obviously business strategy, but really soulful business strategy, and really what I like to call soul activation, like really coming back to you, the heart of your business, your true essence, sharing your most authentic self online through everything that you do through your business, because that is magnetic. So yeah, and then in the life coaching space, it could be about absolutely anything: relationships, your workplace. It could be your relationship with yourself, how you feel about yourself, your loud inner critic, darling, that right down, but ultimately coming from a place of wholeness, of worthiness, of deep self-trust, and sharing your gifts with the world in the way that you want to share them with the world. So I'm really excited for this. 4 spots left. DM me, send me an email if you're getting this one through your inbox. And I can't wait to talk to you more about that. Really excited for these special humans that are about to do this incredible journey with me. Alrighty, now to the podcast episode. This one I feel like is a really important topic. I think this is one that you'll probably want to come back to and listen, watch, come back to from time to time. Save it in your saved podcast folders. And I think it's just one of those things that's like a timely thing. It's going to be something that we will all navigate in some capacity at some point in time along our journeys in our lives. And it's one of those things that's inevitable, I believe. But there's certainly so much love and support and wisdom to be shared around this specific topic, and ways that you can really support yourself through this topic as well, through this. So let's dive into the conversation today. This is all about the void, essentially, the space in between, the messiness of the middle, the messy middle, I like to call it. Really trusting in the void, trusting in your own timeline, trusting in your own soul's growth and your own soul's journey, and ultimately staying open through that process and reaping the rewards of that process, like taking the gifts or receiving the gifts from these seasons that can appear to be somewhat challenging, frustrating, requires you to really dig deep. So we're going to dive into that in a moment. And I've got a couple of quotes that I want to share with you as well. So sharing that there to remind myself. But I also wanted to share a little backstory that I think many of the conversations that I've personally been having, obviously my own journey this year with my pregnancy journey, with conception, etc., but also conversations that I've been having with many clients, and the intuitive downloads that I'm getting around what people need to hear, what did this podcast need to be about? So before I jumped on to record this podcast, I didn't actually have a plan for today's episode. Surprise, surprise. But I did a little meditation and I was pulling some cards. I'm going to share the card that I pulled with you. So I feel like there's some wisdom in this for me, but I think that this is also very much about what this podcast episode needed to be about. So there's two different angles that I want to take with this one. Okay, without further ado, let's dive in. Let's go. So the card that I pulled here, the card that I pulled is this one here from Rebecca Campbell's Work Your Light deck, my favorite. It's called, the card is Leap. And it says, you go first, the universe will catch you. And I'm going to just read a couple of snippets from this. I really love this card. I have received this from time to time in my own personal journey with using oracle cards and asking for guidance and intuitive wisdom. But again, this one is very much around, like, I wanted to do a podcast episode around this because I think this is important. So this card is Leap, you go first, the universe will catch you. Life bends for the courageous. The universe wants to support you, but you first have to leap, to throw life up in the air. It's scary to let go of all that you know and hope for something new. And it's normal to feel anxious at the thought of letting go of what we know for sure. But this is the unavoidable process of rising. And right now, this is how you are being called to live. Boom. Ain't that the truth? So take what you will from that. Take what you want from that. Discard the rest. But I think that's a really beautiful reminder, and what I wanted to, kind of base this topic and this episode around. Okay, so where do we start? Some quotes. So that's what the podcast is based on. That was the inspiration. And the quote that I wanted to share with you, two quotes actually, was this one here. The void is where your soul speaks the loudest, if you are willing to listen. The void is where the soul speaks the loudest, if you are willing to listen. And the second quote that I wanted to share, which I also really loved, is, it's not your job to rush the becoming. It's your job to hold space for it. All these beautiful topics and cards and quotes and wisdom that are just coming through today. So if you are navigating uncertainty, if you feel like you're in the quote unquote void, the messy middle, where you've let go of something, or you know you need to let go of something, but you're not sure of what that next step is, or what the manifestation is, or it hasn't landed, it hasn't fully manifested yet, the desire, the outcome, the goal that you're wanting. And or if you're really committed to soul growth and you're wanting to grow as a human and you feel that need to grow as a human, then this is the podcast episode for you. This is absolutely for you. And this is what I love about the work that I do in my one-to-one clients, is really deep diving on this and personalizing it for them and their unique journey. But I wanted to speak about these topics in the podcast because I think there's some really great wisdom and things that I think are universal for many of us, whether this is in any area of your life, your relationships, your career, your finances, anything, your love relationships, your friendships, anything like that. It could also be within your business. It could also be within your soul's work. It could be within your creativity. If you are feeling like you're in the messy middle, if it hasn't fully manifested yet, if you feel like you're in the void, then your job is to stay open. Your job is to allow instead of resist, right? So often I feel like we can say, yeah, I want this goal, or I want this outcome, or I have this desire for myself in my life, in my business, whatever. And we can say these things and declare them and have the clarity around them and create the vision. And that is so important. That's like coaching 101, right? That's so important, to be clear about what you actually want and to claim that and declare that and to visualize that, or, detail out what that looks like specifically. Like, be really clear on what it is that you're really wanting, right? But then there's this part in the middle where maybe it's not manifesting in the timeline that you would like it to. Or maybe you've been throwing some curveballs, or maybe life has just been lifing for you this year, or in the last couple of months, or whatever it is for you. I certainly know that to be true for me. I certainly know that to be true for many of my clients, and conversations in my personal world as well. Life has been lifing, I like to say. And this is where it is our job to dig deep, to actively surrender, and to hold the faith, to stay in trust, and to stay open. It's so easy to want to close off to the world, to love, to receivership, to abundance, to possibility. It's so easy to be like, man, life is lifing and it's really hard right now. Or I've been thrown all these curveballs, all these challenges, and it's really quote unquote easy to fall into victim mode there about, why is this happening to me? Or like, this isn't happening fast enough, or I'm not getting what I really want, or blaming certain people or circumstances or situations outside of ourselves. And look, we're all human, right? We do this from time to time. But if you're feeling like you're getting caught up in, man, this is hard and this is challenging, and gosh, I wish this could be different, then a loving invitation for you here would be to soften and to, instead of resisting what is to lovingly accept, but actively surrender. I don't want to say just surrender. This is an active process, right? This isn't like, okay, I'm just going to sit back and I'm just going to allow life to happen and I'm not going to take action. I'm not going to take empowered action. I'm not going to show up for my higher self here. I'm not going to show up for my desires and goals. I'm not going to take a back seat here and not be active in my life, because that is not how the universe works. And that is certainly not how we get what we want in life. We go after these desires and this more for ourselves, right? We have to actively be showing up for that. So maybe there's also like maybe I'm lovingly challenging you here, if this feels true for you, to how can you like actively participate, to actively surrender, and to not wallow in the void. Not wallow in the void. Yeah, are you with me? Because I think it's so easy to close off. It's so easy to get stuck in that resistance. And it's so easy to, feel powerless, or to shift the blame, or have that level of resistance or resentment, whatever it might be. You name the feeling there, but you know what I mean. It can be so easy to fall into those traps. So it's not going to do you any favors, right? It's not going to make you feel good on the inside. It's not going to make you feel good in the day-to-day, right? And it's also not going to do you any favors in the long run, because we need to be actively participating in our lives, right? And I know that I'm smiling and laughing because it's like, of course. But sometimes when life's really challenging or hard, or we're not getting the things that we're wanting, like we haven't had the manifestation land yet, and it's taking some time, that can be really challenging to still show up with love and to stay open, and to not be like, oh, well, I don't, I'm just like surrendering here fully, surrendering in a passive way, and handing all of the power and all the responsibility onto the universe, source, the greater powers that be, whatever you want to call it there, or other people, or, not taking that active responsibility. So I think this is an important one to remember is, how can I actively surrender? Now, as I mentioned in that quote, there is so much soul growth and gifts in the void. And we as humans we don't like the void, right? We find this so challenging, right? Is when things aren't happening, or when it feels like we're in the messy middle and we're churning through the mud, or we have to allow ourselves to let go of certain people, certain situations, certain offers, certain opportunities, whatever it might be, to allow space for what's meant for you to land, for what's meant for you to drop in. And that is so much easier said than done. I get it, right? I can be here on the podcast and be like, you just need to like let that go and allow space for this, and trust, and, feel really open and positive, and remain hopeful in the void, right? It's really easy for me to say this, but I genuinely believe this to be true. And I have navigated this on multiple occasions in my life, this year included. And also, this is the stuff that I support people with uniquely and personalized through my one-to-one work. So send me a DM if you are interested, or reach out via an email. Would love to be in touch with you and have a chat about this. So it's easier said than done, but this is the work. This is the work for soul growth. This is the work for manifestation. This is the work for, the life that I know that you're here for. The more that you're talking about, the big desires, the goals, the visions, this is your path to those things. It is unavoidable. It is unavoidable. Ironically. And we're all going to go through a version of this at some point in time in our lives. And it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to show up for that and to actively surrender and do what we need to do to support ourselves through that void, not to resist it, not to run away from it, not to give our power away and completely let go of the reins here, right? So what I want to lovingly challenge you on here is to choose to be like, okay, I'm validating myself. I fully see myself in this season. It's challenging, or I've been thrown these curveballs and I'm feeling this way. So really acknowledging those feelings, acknowledging where you're at, validating yourself for that, because I think that's the important first step. We have to acknowledge those feelings because they're real, they're normal, you're having a human experience, and that's absolutely okay. And if we gloss over that part and we want to move forward, then those emotions will keep coming up to be felt, to be expressed, to be moved through. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to stay open through this process, not to close yourself off to love, to abundance, to receivership, not to wallow in some of those emotions that are lower vibrational, that aren't supportive for you or for anyone else around you or that manifestation process. So staying open to that. And the other thing that was really important in all of this is trusting in your soul's journey and trusting in your timeline. Right? We all have these unique, beautiful soul journeys that we're on. And I believe that our souls came here for a reason, that you're here for a reason, that just because you exist, you are worthy of those things. Your desires, your dreams, the vision that you have for yourself is yours for a reason, and it's yours to live out. And not everyone has that same vision and dream, and therefore it's yours. And also that we are all on our own timelines. That it is so easy to compare ourselves to quote unquote societal norms or other people in our world or other people that we see online. And most of the time, that's not a fair comparison, right? We're comparing apples to oranges and we just can't make that comparison. Yeah. But if anything, sometimes that comparison can light a fire in your belly for more. And sometimes that comparison can shine a light on the things that we actually deeply desire, but perhaps we haven't fully claimed or recognized or acknowledged within ourselves or shared out loud with ourselves or anyone else. And so take that as in a positive way of fuel to be like, actually, that is something that I really want, or actually maybe I have been settling and there's more for me. Or, hey, that person's really going after their dreams, or they're creating XYZ that I really desire within myself. And if they can do it, so can I, using it in a positive light. And only you'll be able to check in with, is that in a supportive way, or is that in a not so great way? And so you need to be just really discerning with yourself there and check in with how it's actually making you feel. And is this supportive or not? Check in, obviously do the supportive stuff, let go of the things that aren't supportive for yourself. And and recognizing that sometimes we need to let things go. Sometimes we need to say no. Sometimes we need to have boundaries. Sometimes we need to really look at our priorities and really come back to, well, hold on, asking myself this challenging question, am I actually spending time on the things that I say that are a priority for myself? Or not, and being just really honest with yourself and really discerning around that, because that's also really important, right? And then there'll be other times where we have to let those things go. We have to have the space and the time and the boundaries to enable ourselves the space and time to call in that next thing, to create the vision for the creativity to come, and all for those things to have space to come into our lives, whatever it is, right? To come into our lives and in our relationships, in our workspaces, in our businesses, and whatever it is, right? Creating space for those, for what's next. And gosh, that can be really challenging to let something go, even when you know that it's not necessarily like wrong. Maybe it was bringing you income or money. Maybe it was giving back to you in some way. Like maybe it wasn't completely, a bad thing. But maybe you know deep down in your heart space, in your intuition, your soul knows that it's time to close that door, or it's time to close that chapter, or it's time to say no and to allow the space for what's next to come in. Again, it's easier said than done, and this is where courage comes in, and this is where trust comes in. To trust your own journey, to trust yourself, to trust your intuition, to trust that if you're having that intuitive knowing, that soul whisper, that nudge, then it's time to listen to that and trust in that. Yeah. And then for others of you, or it might be for many of you, but at a slightly different stage along this journey. And remember that this journey is not linear as well, right? It's not always like in a straight upwards line, right? Especially not in the void. Life's not like that. Gosh, our brains just want us to be like that. Hey, it's not. We go through seasons, we go through cycles, we go ups and downs and twists and turns, but we are always learning and we were always growing, right? We're never going backwards as such, right? It might just be that we need to learn that lesson again, or we need to re-cement this thing, or there's something along the way that we needed to take with us for the next level, for the next part of the journey, right? So it's not always linear. That's okay. It's called the messy middle for a reason, right? All the twists and turns that we go on. But there will be some of you along this point in your journey where you need to leap, where you need to have so much faith and trust in yourself, trust in the universe, trust in God, source, the greater powers that be, trust in your spirit team, your spirit council, your guides, and take a leap. Now that leap's going to look very different from every individual, and only you will know what that leap is. Only you will know what that leap is, and your soul will know. Your intuition will whisper it to you. Your intuition will give you the feeling, and it will keep knocking on your door until you start to listen. And it will get louder and louder and louder until you act on it. So if you're having one of those moments, or you know what I'm talking about, then maybe this is your sign that it's time to leap. Now, leaping is, like I said, it's going to look really different. It could be saying yes to an opportunity. It could be booking the plane ticket. It could be going on that date. It could be putting an offer out into the universe. It could be upping your prices. It could be booking the venue for your next in-person event or retreat. It could be going to meet that connection, that friend, that collaboration, whatever. It could be going to visit that house that you've been wanting to buy, that just came up on your radar. Like it could be so many different things depending on, where you're at in your life and your business, whatever it is. You'll know though, you'll know. And it's going to feel a combination of equally terrifying and exciting at the same time. Like it's going to feel really scary. It's going to feel nerve-wracking. And it will feel freeing and exciting and right as well. And that's when you know that it's the greatest combo, and that's when you know that you have to do it. When you're nervous and excited, that's when you know you have to leap. That's when you know you have to follow through and take action on it. Now, leaping doesn't also mean that you leap from, square one to square 10. It's not always like one huge massive step. It might even be just taking a leap of faith or taking some bold action in that direction towards that goal or that desire or that dream. So it doesn't necessarily have to look a certain way, remember, but it will feel like a leap. It'll feel like I don't have full certainty that I'm going to be okay, that this is the right thing, that I'm going to get the desired outcome that I really want. And like, spoiler alert, no one does really. And so there will be uncertainty with that, and that's part of it. And your role, your job is to like come back to deep trust time and time again, to stay open instead of closing. When we want to close and retreat and contract backwards, it's your job to stay open. It's your job to, leap before you're ready, to take that bold action, that courageous action in that direction before you're ready. And before maybe you've got the 10-step plan and the exact outcomes, and that is life, and that is so important. So, I'm just reading my notes. Have I covered everything? Yes. Look, I think the biggest thing is like recapping is that the void is inevitable. It's unavoidable. Everyone will go through the void at some point in times in their lives and their journeys. And the void will look different for everyone. The void may be varying different lengths of time. It's the messy middle. It's when life is lifing, when you've been faced with challenges or hard decisions, or when life is really requiring you to step up and learn and grow for soul growth. So just remembering that it's all about your soul's growth. It's happening for you, not to you. And it's your job to stay open, to trust yourself, the universe, the higher powers, your spirit guides and team, to know when it's time to let go, to actively surrender, and then also to take that leap when you need to leap, and to be courageous and not rush in that process either. It's all in divine timing. It's all in your timing. Your soul is here for a reason, and you've got a specific goal and vision that's yours for a reason, and you don't need to keep playing small. It's time to step up. It's time to go after those things. So exciting. So let's befriend the void. Let's not give it the dark mark. Let's befriend it. Let's actively surrender to it and know that it's a part of the process. It's a part of your soul's growth and journey. So I'm going to end with those two quotes that I started with, and remember that beautiful card, to leap, to go first, to trust. Yeah. Okay, so the two beautiful quotes is, the void is where your soul speaks the loudest if you're willing to listen, right? So really trusting into your intuition, trusting into the timing, trusting into the nudges, your soul whispers, the feelings that you're getting, the inklings, spending time in stillness and meditation, using oracle cards, connecting in with your spirit team and guides as much as you can, because that's where you're going to find the clarity, the insights, the wisdom that you really need. And also, it's not your job to rush the becoming. It's your job to hold space for it. So really just trusting in your own timing, trusting, actively surrendering to it, knowing that it's all happening for you, not to you, to know when to surrender and let go, and also to know when to leap. And maybe it's not always like knowing exactly, but just trusting, trusting in your intuition, trusting in your soul. It always knows. Anyway, my loves, I hope that's helpful. Would love to hear, as always, what you think of this podcast episode, what you think of this topic, what are your key takeaways and lessons from this one. Remember, 4 spots to work with me this year currently available in 2025 before I go on mat leave. So if that's you, if you're wanting to dive into this kind of topic and this kind of soul growth work more, if it's something in your life, if it's something in your business, I would love to support you with that. So send me a DM, reach out, send me an email, and we can have a chat about it. All right, my loves, I'll talk to you really soon. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day.